Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Alex from TT Discussions. That's right, third video, back to back. Still wearing the same sweater. Decided to make all these videos just at once and slowly drop them over time for you guys. But this video is a really big passion of mine. It's super important. It's something that I need to really talk about because I think that given Worlds and given Nats before this, uh, this topic was brought to my attention by a whole number of top representations, number one, to discussions about what makes the best deck in the game. I think the best deck in the game, personally, my favorite best deck in the game is my Soul Striker deck. I really love my Soul Striker deck right now. But I think the best deck in the game is actually Gogeta Xeno. And it's really hard for me to say that after Gogeta Xeno lost to Kid Icarus in the finals. But I think that Kid Icarus was main decking a very powerful card that had they not had it in game one, they lost game one. And then going into games 2 and 3, it's a toss-up. And I think that those decks can go back and forth. The Vegeta Unison of Fury really swung the game in Kid Icarus's favor because the tempo slowed down a lot. But one of the reasons why neck decking, I should start off about, I guess, why it's good. One, it's good because it gives you a place to start. It gives you an idea. Okay, so I didn't think about that card. I didn't think about this strategy specifically. Okay, that sounds really powerful. It solves a lot of my problems. I didn't think of that. That's good. Some people are not good at deck building, right? So net decking is a good way for them to get a foundation. As things update and they start to understand the deck, maybe they make some tweaks. This is a pro and a con, a playstyle thing. You didn't realize this deck could play this way, so I'm gonna play that, right? Or it could be just a generation of, oh my lord, I love this leader, this is my favorite leader, I thought this deck was trash, I'm gonna play it. So like Golden Frieza, for example, nobody thought Set 1 Golden Frieza was going to be good in this current format until somebody made it. But there are a lot of cons in net decking, and I think it's really important that we discuss those here so that you guys don't fall into these traps, number one. Number two, you can recognize these mistakes before they occur. And number three, realize that people who net deck with a specific intention in mind. So what is that specific intention? Let's just start there. I believe that there are content creators in this game and other games that specifically push a group of people one way with a deck, and they have secret hidden tech and ideas that will give them the edge that they don't reveal. Now, this could be just not revealing all your cards, right? And this is important because you're going to have a edge in a tournament where you probably need to, especially when a lot of people think that a deck is solved. The problem is that I do know that there are content creators specifically that will make a deck, talk about said deck, in this specific light to either affect the secondary market, to affect the way players think about a deck, to reinforce specific strategies, and then either play a deck that completely destroys it or will go on to play different cards in the deck without ever revealing to the world what they are, which is their right to do, so that they have an edge. And I think that is both fair and scummy at the same time. I will never do that to you guys. I was talking about Demigar's Secretary for weeks before I got first place with Dark Brawly here recently, and I made a deck profile for it because I knew it was going to be good. And same thing with this Soul Striker deck. I'm not hiding or anything. That deck is a pilot, as much as a pilot deck as it is if you just net decked it out of existence. And so this leads me to the kind of the hidden purpose, which is point two, is that when you net deck, you run the risk of falling into another really big trap. And that is, these players play these specific cards with specific ideas in mind. And earlier I hinted at that could be to mislead you, so that you would play a suboptimal version and they would have an edge. And this is, again, something fair and also scummy at the same time. Like, it burns me up that, for example, Hasty Dispatch Dispo, although very fair for Crossworld and his team to play in their deck, to have talked about, play tested all these different decks for Nationals, and never once brought to the community's attention, maybe outside of Patreon. I'm not even sure if they did it there, because I'm not subscribed to his Patreon. But even if it is, that's a paywall, which is a problem. But then to just talk about Hasty Dispatch Dispo and these tech cards. Like, it's obvious, right? Like, that this tech was kept for Nats, which, again, is fair. But when he sat down against another Golden Frieza player, he already has an edge. And I'm not saying that he or his team intentionally did that, but it is a risk. It's a huge risk. I have several friends who net deck all the time. All the time. Through no fault of their own, for whatever reason they decide to do it, they just do it. But to the second point, there are a lot of people and players in this game that play specific cards for a specific reason, and you may not understand how optimally to play that card. It takes a base foundation of the deck first, and an understanding of that base foundation, in order for you to improve upon it. For example, there's a reason why only a few Invoker players are considered like true gods of Invoker. Because regardless of how horrible the format was for them, they not only still played Invoker in formats where it probably shouldn't be very successful, but due to their skill with piloting the cards inside of it, they were able to do well because they understand the situations in which they need to play those cards and what those cards are there for. It is not enough, I'm going to repeat myself, it is not enough if you don't understand the functions of cards and how they exist in your deck. See my previous video on this with Deck Synergy. It is not enough to simply play powerful cards for being powerful cards. I talked about this in my previous video with the Baby Unison versus the Super Warrior Evolution Gogeta Unison for Soul Striker. They do completely different things, even though they might serve in some ways the same purpose in the deck. They both self-awaken, they both are a god sealing like opener for you, but they serve completely different functions based on the cards that I have in my deck versus the cards that other people have in their decks. So these deck differences, techs, and choices really matter. And when you net deck, you may net deck thinking this guy did really great, it must be good, without ever considering the fact that they're playing specific cards in there that you may not optimally understand. And this is something to really consider when you sit down and look at a list. So for example, Juan Soto's list for Gogeta Xeno, should that be looked at as the best deck of Gogeta Xeno, the best iteration? I'm going to tell you something. He was playing tech cards all over the place that one, no Gogeta Xeno play. Like, I, as a Gogeta Xeno player, was not thinking about, or I had dismissed or did not want to play. However, he's also playing those specific tech cards for a reason. For example, he had a PyCon Unison in the main deck. He had PyCon Unison sided. He had 3 or 4 of the Black Smoke Dragon Unison. And he played only 1 of the Double Strike Goku card. So I'm going to focus on the Black Smoke Unison because I haven't analyzed directly like his deck all the way through yet. but this is just a really easy one. When you think about the three main unisons that you would play in Gogeta Xeno, you have obviously the now recognized as one of the top unisons to play in the deck, the Black Smoke one. You have the Mira unison, and you have the Pikkon unison. All three of these unisons are functioning at a completely different level. The Pikkon unison is a very aggressive unison. It's aggressive for what it does to your 1-drops. It's aggressive for what it does on its minus ability. And it's aggressive in the fact that it's a body that can put damage. Its synergy with Gogeta Xeno is ridiculous because if you have 1-drops on the board, your leader plus that Pikkon unison makes your 1-drops 25,000 swings, which is ridiculous. That's basically turning 2 1-drops that do something against your opponent, right? When they negate, or in this case, D-Magic would just do a hot slap to 2 cards in my hand with both of them on the board. It makes them 25k swings. So if they're swinging for lethal, I'm going to lose some cards just for trying to do something about it. And you can see why that's really powerful, especially with swinging pressure pieces. It can really do a number. The next thing to consider, unison to consider, is the Mira unison, my favorite unison to play. What I like about it is, let's say I do the top 5. I hit a Kai, I hit a Mira, I hit a Goku. I have a 1-drop Vegeta in my hand, and the Goku is a True Fighting Spirit. So I have a True Fighting Spirit Vegeta, I have a True Fighting Spirit Goku, I have a Kai, and I have a Mira. Right? This is just plain thinking. And now I do a full stop. Because I have thwarting in my hand, I want to play a draw card, swing, and then swing with my leader, or take a live draw card. Right? That's my goal. So I do a full stop at 3. I use my Kai effect bottom decker to play the Mira. +1 the Mira to warp my Vegeta and draw a card. Use my Union Fusion to warp the Vegeta to now put the Goku and the Vegeta into my drop area. Union Fusion out thwarting. Draw a card for my leader. Swing warp a card. And you can see how that works. And that to me was really important. And Mira's -2 ability is downright ridiculous if you have Champa in hand. No questions asked, especially in that deck. And now the third one that Juan Soto really hit home, right? Really, really hit home, was the Black Smoke Dragon. And sure, he didn't win it all, but going into the finals, I think he was like 3-0. So, let's not act like he probably wasn't playing the best deck in the room. But when you look at that card, it is not immediately obvious why that card is really good. It's just not. And if you think it is, you're sorely mistaken. Really sorely mistaken. So it's -1 basically allows you to look through your deck for Dragon Balls, put them in the drop area, and then draw a card. Right? And so the Kai, putting it to the board, -1s, it puts it on there with a marker, and then it's just going to die immediately to draw a card. But that was what was so sneaky about it. All the other cards that I've just previously talked about are not inherent pluses. They're not, unless you're -3ing off the Pikkon, which if it kills the Pikkon, you just trade. The problem that he is solving with this is the hand destruction matchup before the side. You see, with Kai in that, it's a free draw. It's a raw free plus. So when he warps the top 5 to put that out there with the Kai, it's inherently netting him a card. This means that hand destruction gets really bad if both of those cards are in his hand. Because he turns both of those cards not only to another card into his deck when he bottom decks the Kai, when he overwhelms them out, he's now basically going to draw another card on top of whatever else he's going to draw. His leader's going to draw for a swing, And then his Gogetas, when they play, are going to draw him another card for the leader. And their warp effects or play effects are either going to plus and raw advantage for combo or what have you, in other effects, or it's going to then minus on the card, like with the Fearless Fusion and the Gogeta swing. So there's going to be more plussing there. If I talk about that combo in terms of a raw play, you bottom deck Kai, you -1 this, you get to look at your deck, see what's still in there to draw, plan your plays accordingly, which is a like S tier level play, right? That is a very high skill, big brain combo, because knowing what you have coming or that you could draw into can alter and affect your plays. Also lets you know what's in your life, right? So if I have a Gogeta thwarting in my hand, 1 on the board, and none in my deck, how many are in my life? 2. So it allows that high skill, high ceiling with a raw plus. Then when you thwarting, that's a draw. When you swing the leader, that's a draw. And then to top it all off, when you swing with that, Gogeta, it's gonna, I'm assuming it's SS3 thwarting, you're then gonna warp a card. So that whole tempo for 1 energy is basically a 4 tempo swing. And that is sneakily good. Not just that, he was also using, I think it was against the Green Brawly player, Sung Hung. I'm sorry, I'm butchering his name, but it was a Wong Hao, I think. I don't know. But basically, the guy was ridiculous for thinking about this Green Brawly strategy, but he outplayed it, severely outplayed it, by using the draw effects coupled with the bottom decks so that his deck would not bleed out when he was drawing the cards he was doing plus warping the top 5. Very, very, very high level thinking that nobody was considering. When you bring in Deborah against this card, it gets even better. And then if you add Draw Apes and whatever else on top of it, it just gets better from there. So you can see, though, right, to my point about net decking, when it comes to not understanding those card choices, it really makes a difference. Really makes a difference. If you thought that Black Smoke was just going to draw a card without understanding the total applications as to why that is good, then you're going to miss out severely, right, on what this player had in mind and what he's trying to address. So what happens if hand destruction is just not good anymore, right? Mirror Unison and PyCon potentially are inherently better. They're just going to be inherently better because, one, both PyCon and Mirror are pressure pieces. In a deck that's naturally aggressive, you would think those pressure pieces matter, and which is one of the reasons why Black Smoke, by a lot of people, myself included, was written off, right? Not being able to attack in a deck that's trying to attack you all the time attack your opponent all the time is not good. But he was thinking ahead. And if you don't understand that, you might net deck yourself into a trap. You might be playing cards that you think are really good because this guy did good with it, right? But if you don't understand the nuance in his choices, you could really dig yourself a hole. The third reason that net decking is just absolutely bad is it doesn't take account of smart players' reactions to said deck. Kid Icarus is a very hard deck to build against, build for, I should say. But Kid Icarus is not without its weaknesses. If for starters, if it plays Cooler Mill, I'm going to say this and die on this hill, right? Like, Killer Mill should just absolutely annihilate that deck out of existence. I don't understand why it doesn't. People don't play it. Maybe they have trouble sequencing it. I don't know. But to me, it's one of the most powerful decks against Kid Icarus. But to the point of Kid Icarus, right? Let's say people look at Andrew Duvall's list. Now, the best player in the world, first world champion, best player in America. He's got such a resume under his name for Dragon Ball now. Let's say you just net deck that. And the next major tournament we have, you walk into the room with that. But that strategy that you were that was supposed to be like 10-0 free in your testing, well, there's a card you never considered. Nobody considered. Nobody thought. Right? Again, a great example of this is the Green Brawley player. When we looked at hand destruction, we thought Cell Surge was it. There's no better way. But it turns out that when you bleed your opponent's hand dry, you combo all your cards, you play Dormant Potential, you play the Boo, and you pitch cards, and then your next turn you play more cards, and then lose your whole hand, and then over combo on attacks to prevent damage, minus some more cards with Android Super Combo, and then you swing with leader and draw 6. Turns out that's really good. Something nobody considered. And he destroyed everybody in the world with it up until Worlds. He even beat Andrew Duvall. It was shocking to me that Andrew Duvall was even in the finals because I watched him with Green Brawley beat him. I don't know how the standings worked out for Andrew Duvall to even be in the finals, but shout out to him for winning it all, right? But point being that, again, another card nobody was considering. Surely he's playing the Boo Unison that takes my Unison from me and prevents my battle cards from attacking from the turn. Surely he's playing that SCR because it's the best one, right? And then I watched Andrew Duvall shotgun combo his whole hand and then die to an Ape SCR. Straight out. Straight blew him out. It was literally like a god tier player, now the best player in the world, died to an Ape SCR when he's literally staring at a mono green deck. Didn't consider it. Didn't even consider it. Who's played that card? Who's played that card in recent time at all? Right? And when you net deck, you can walk into as many traps, not just for having a one of that Ape SCR and not considering it, right? But you can walk as many traps because there are many cards in the card pool that nobody might be looking at that would actually, in fact, destroy you. And that's really something to consider. It just is. So when you come into that, you have to be really thinking, am I playing this deck because I think it's the best? Am I playing this deck because this guy saw a lot of success with it? Or am I playing this deck because I like its strategy, I really want to learn it, I'm going to put in the time that it takes to learn it and learn it well and understand what could beat me? Because if you picked up Andrew Duvall's deck because he won and turned around and said, I'm playing the deck that won everything Worlds, and not look at the fact that going into that finals, Juan Soto was 3-0, you're missing something. Right? If you didn't watch that stream and saw why Juan Soto lost both of his games, you're missing something. If you're not considering that Juan's not going to go home, analyze how to get over Vegeta Unison of Fury faster, you're missing something. And that is a huge problem with net decking. The fourth one, and this is more on the person than it is the deck, so I'm stepping away from the potential traps, is it can breed complacency and laziness. And this is I'm sorry to put it as blunt that way, but it has to be done. It just has to be done. I come from a Yu-Gi-Oh background. I'm going to segment the story with this. I come from a Yu-Gi-Oh background. Every regional that I have ever been to Yu-Gi-Oh, I have topped and qualified for nationals. I think I've gone to like 4, and I am 4 for 4 for either topping and qualifying for nationals, either top 32, top 16. I've tied for top 8, but due to record and tie breaks, I haven't made it into top 8. The last one, and this has been a while back, was when True King Dinosaurs was at full power. So for those of you who are Dragon Ball players only, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But the point, stick with me, is absolutely, complete and utterly relevant to my point 4, which is it breeds complacency and laziness. So I was playing True King Dinosaurs, which I thought was a really powerful deck given the cards in it. It had a really powerful boss monster, it had an insane combo, and the variant I was playing was absolutely horrifying to everything that was the meta, which at the time was True Draco Zodiac, which was a ridiculously ungodly powerful deck. However, if my combo resolved, that deck auto lost on the spot. It did not matter. What I set up was completely unbeatable. It was double Logia. And Logia negates the summon of a card or negates the activation of a spell or trap card. So I could either kill your consistency or I could kill the card you attempted to play from your extra deck or summon. This would either be the Masterpiece, which was at the time, it's a banned card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, thank God, but it is literally one of the most powerful boss monsters ever made in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it solo destroyed any Zodiac XYZ plays. But it made double Logia with like a trap and a hand trap. If I had a hand trap, double Logia, and like one trap or another hand trap to go with it, you lost. You lost. And it was a 2-card combo with hyper consistency to get to. It was like a 73% that in my opening turn with 5 cards in hand, I was going to open this combo. And there was like a 56% that if you had a hand trap or an interruption that I could play through it. That's providing I didn't have the response to that in my hand. So I go into this tournament with my strategy, knowing full well that I have completely broken a deck that nobody knows about. I did not drop a game until round 6 at the top tables when I was table 1. Okay? And I know this is quite the story, but it's going to make sense. Every single round after round 3, I was playing at top table position 8 forward. And guess what was sitting at all those tables? True Draco Zodiac, 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 me a dinosaur player, another True King Dinosaur player playing the Synchro build, which was considered the best at the time, and then like one other deck, but it was all True Draco Zodiac. Like maybe like Mono Zodiac, I think was like the other one. In 2 rounds in a row, so this is like round 4, 5, I think, I went up against 2 different players. And I will never forget this. One of the players in particular had spent $3,000 to make his entire Zodiac deck max rarity, first edition, oldest, highest rarity of the editions of the cards, or highest rarity currently out there, all in French. He had the translations for them and all of it. And so he sat down, and he was one of those arrogant Yu-Gi-Oh players, and they exist in every game, not just in Yu-Gi-Oh, but he was one of those arrogant players that literally was like, I have the best deck in the room, it's foreign, it looks good, you should just lose to me. You should. And the guy didn't know how to play his own deck. at all. He won. He did beat me. He beat me 2-1 in a very, very close game. But, I mean, it was very, very close. He literally almost destroyed himself. So he flips a trap card called Imperial Order, which every single time a standby phase occurs while Imperial Order is face up, you have to pay 700 life points. And in Yu-Gi-Oh, you start with 8,000. 700's not very much at first, but it's technically 1,400 in a turn phase change. So it's 700 for your standby phase, 700 for mine. My opponent had a card called Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, in which he attempted to Ghost Ogre his Imperial Order so he could kill me with the spell cards that he had to create a combo. The problem is the cost of Imperial Order to pay 700 life points is cost. It is not an effect. Ghost Ogre can't even respond to it, as if you could. And that is something that when he tried to do it, I stopped and I was like, you can't Ghost Ogre your own Imperial Order because of the fact that it's cost. And cost is not an effect in Yu-Gi-Oh! By the way, I'm a judge of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I already knew this going into it. And he argued with me. He's like, no, that's not how it works. That's an effect. And I said, no, you're paying cost to keep a continuous effect that is not activating. And so we called a judge over. The judge ruled in his favor. And then I appealed it to the head judge. And then the head judge walked over, looked at that judge, and then looked at him with his foreign deck and was like, no, you cannot Ghost Ogre that. This player is correct. You're paying for cost to keep that card up on the board. And he started to sweat because he just was like, oh my gosh, I might die to my own card or make myself too weak, and then he'll make a card that could kill me or something like that. Which I did have a card that could do that. If he was at 800 or less, I had Cowboy in my side deck. I could have killed him. Okay. And then one more example. I had another player who had a card called My Body as a Shield, and this was to prevent Zoodiac Dryads from dying to cards like Dark Hole and Regeki at the time, which destroys all monsters on the field for Dark Hole, and then Regeki destroys all of your opponent's monsters. So if I had those in my hand, basically I was gonna take his cards to task, and he wouldn't have his Dryden on the board, and if his Masterpiece was made without a spell, that card would die too. So he had My Body as a Shield, which is a card that says you can pay 1,500 life points to prevent the destruction of a card. So I make my board with Logias, which negates the summon of a card. And my opponent attempts to summon Zoodiac Dryden, to which I negated the summon of Logia and destroyed it. And then he tried to chain My Body as a Shield. The problem is I negated the summon of a card and then I destroyed it. My Body as a Shield only protects cards that are face up on the board. And since I negated the summon, it's as if it tried to come to the board, like this is the board, it tries to come to the board, stops, and just goes straight to the graveyard. And then Logia destroys it while it's in the graveyard, basically. And again, he was like, no, that says destroy. I'm appealing to a judge. Judge comes over, he rules in my favor. He appeals to the head judge. Head judge comes over and says, what? No, you can't activate My Body as a Shield. In response to that, the card's not on the board for you to protect with it. Its summon's been negated. It's as if it's not there. So my opponents in those scenarios, and that guy did lose to me. He lost 2-0. My opponents did not understand their cards. They thought, everyone says this deck is broken. I've researched a couple combos on how to play this deck. Clearly, I must be winning. You cannot just play a deck that is good because it is good. You have to be willing to take the time to understand it. And when it comes to Dragon Ball, this happens all the time. It happens all the time. When Mecha Frieza was a thing, right, before it got banned again, everybody was trying to get on that train. And then what happened? Well, Mecha Frieza won some, lost some, Won some, didn't appear in a tournament, and top 8 for 2 months straight. Why? Because despite how good that deck is, right? Despite how good it was, people did not know how to take their life and when to take it. They assumed, hey, guess what? I have Universe Night Assemble. I can just go to town. Draw cards, take life, play a card, draw another card, swing. Why not? Well, when you take too much life and your opponent has appropriate defensive response and the answers to clap back at you, you lose. So Mecha Frieza started becoming a high skill intensive deck. And then guess what happened? It's almost like Senzu Bean's good, Bojack's good, Zamasu's good. Yeah, we should play blue-yellow cards. And so they did. And then it was like, yeah, I drew 50 cards. Bean, 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 bean. Final flash, final flash, final flash, final flash on a lethal swing. Shake my hand, GG. And then blue-yellow got really good, and they were like, we got to stop making Mecha Frieza leaders, ban it. And back to, and that tech example right there is exactly what I'm talking about. But back to the point, right? Going full circle. If you are building a deck because Juan Soto did good with it, because Green Brawler just looks interesting, because Cell Surge is really good, because Icarus is Icarus, don't do it out of laziness. Don't. If you have the cards already, that's fine. But if you're one of those people that doesn't have these cards, and you're saying to yourself, I'm going to play the best deck in the game, and you don't realize that not Juan Soto, but the Andrew Duvall lost to Green Brawley very, very badly and in a very bad fashion, right? If you don't realize that, you might walk into a tournament and lose. You might take that best deck in the room and lose. And that's not a position that you want to be in. So for all these reasons, the 4 that I listed, mainly, sorry for the long Yu-Gi-Oh story, but it proves my point, right? How good players and people who had been winning all day lost to me because they don't know how to play their own deck and my deck countered their deck. But that's not the point. And it is the point. Right? My deck countered their deck and they didn't know how to play it. Don't be that guy. It's just a warning. To prevent you from feeling failure and investing hundreds or thousands of dollars into cards and then not see success. Take the time to understand the kind of deck you want to play and take the time to look at the card pool. Take the time to ask yourself, can this fit in here? And take the time to realize that these players probably had something in mind with this card. What's this about? I know with Mean Golden Frieza, it was the Android 18 Defender of Heroes. I will stick by that card in that deck for all time. Because it and Super Dragon Fist, really stupid. So, that's it for this video. This is going to be a long one, but one that I feel that is worth talking about. I hope you guys learned something from this because I care about this personally, this topic specifically, because again, I have friends who just got discouraged when they weren't playing the best deck in the room. I got friends that will deck hop and spend thousands of dollars on the game. Not that I haven't done that from time to time, but it's one of those things where I'm in a place right now that is very, very happy with what I have, even though I don't have as much as I used to with this game. And I just want to prevent you from, one, making some of the mistakes that I've personally made in the past, but more often than not, I'm watching a lot of other people make. Don't be the person that is standing in the way of their own success. Be the kind of person who's being patient enough to have success in the future. So that's it for this video. And I hope you guys learned something from it. I hope you guys have truly enjoyed this very long discussion. I look forward to your comments in the comment section down below. And I will see you guys next time. Happy holidays. This is Alex from TCG Discussions, signing off. Laters.